I can tell you about, we're going to try to start a little earlier. Go ahead and get it running. You can go ahead and start it because
we are raised together with Christ and we sit in heavenly places.
Yeah. And I don't know where you are because I could be wrong.
God of one blood has made all nations of men to dwell on the face of the earth. And he has appointed their times.
That's going to be all right. Yeah, it was close.
Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together.
I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul shall make a boast in the Lord. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad. O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. Hello, I'm Pastor Jimmy Stevens of the New Covenant Faith Baptist Church here in Lake Charles, Louisiana. We are so excited to come to you. We have a great special. Our subject today is coronavirus vaccinations and the African American community. We are so thankful for the vaccinations, and I'm so delighted and honored to have as my special guest Dr. Tammy Mitchell, MD. Dr. Mitchell, welcome. We're so glad to have you. And we are so delighted that you've taken time out of your schedule to give us information about the vaccine and how we're going to deal with it. Why don't we begin by you telling us a little things about yourself, your credentials, your training as a medical doctor.
Yes, sir. Good evening, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be here as well and to provide the community with some information that we hope will be a great benefit to them as we're thinking about the vaccination of the coronavirus. Yes, my name is Dr. Tammy Mitchell. I'm a board-certified family physician. And I went to undergraduate at Nicholls State University in Thibodaux, Louisiana. Got my MD degree from LSU Shreveport School of Medicine in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I did my residency training at the University of Alabama Hospital in Birmingham, Alabama.
Very good. We are so delighted to have you in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And how long have you been serving in the Lake Charles, Louisiana area?
I've been in the Lake Charles area since 2006. I came shortly after Hurricane Rita.
You have been such a blessing in our community. And I'm also honored to say you're a member of the New Covenant Faith Baptist Church. And again, we are so delighted to have your expertise, your professionalism, and your knowledge here on today. Dr. Mitchell, what are some of the effects, if you will, or adverse effects with the COVID with African Americans?
Well, African Americans are 3 to 4 times more likely to get the coronavirus. And of course, not only getting it, but leading to the more severe illness, which can subsequently lead to death as well. And some of the things that we think might put us at risk for getting the coronavirus more so than others is things such as economics, of course, because many times, especially during the time of the pandemic, many people are either laid off or not working like they were. And sometimes we tend to cohabitate with each other. You may actually have to go and live with family members. And then another thing that impacted us in this area, was a hurricane as well. That put us at risk for maybe having to cohabitate more with one another, because some people had to relocate, or if they had damage to their homes in a hurricane, then they may be living with other family members. So by cohabitating more, then that put us at risk, because this coronavirus is airborne. And we try to social distance, but sometimes even when you're living together, that still can be difficult to do. Also, we are more likely, the frontline workers, as far as essential workers, we're more likely serving on the front lines. We're probably the ones working in the grocery stores, as well as, transportation and services providers, also healthcare workers as well. And those things also put us at risk. In addition to that, we're also typically, our access to care is not as good, as others as well. So those are 3 real important things that somewhat put us at a greater risk. Also, the comorbidities and mortalities that we deal with, as far as things like diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, renal disease, kidney failure, those comorbidities will put you at greater risk for developing coronavirus and obesity as well. And so unfortunately, those comorbidities are typically much higher in our African American community.
Yes. I was reading something just on yesterday, Dr. Mitchell, and that is that 60% of white Americans have already taken the vaccination, and only 5.4% of African Americans. Could you speak to that?
I think maybe one of the things that may make us hesitant is, we have those things in history that have occurred, like the Tuskegee Institute type trials where, we were given things and we weren't necessarily, very used as guinea pigs or subjects. That's the thought. I think many people have that in their mind. I think another thing is the warp speed of the virus, in the sense that, people thinking normally it may take 8 to 10 years to create a vaccine. So that if we have a vaccine that's available this quickly, people are like, well, how did they come up with the vaccine so quickly? But one of the things to keep in mind is that the coronavirus actually has been around for quite some time. Now, the COVID-19 is the SARS-CoV virus number 2. So the first SARS virus was identified in China back in 2003. And then there was MERS, which is the Mediterranean Eastern Respiratory Syncytial Virus. That was the second type of coronavirus that was identified in 2012. So when SARS-CoV-1, which is the initial type of coronavirus, came out, scientists started working on the coronavirus vaccine at that time. So they have been working on the coronavirus, vaccine actually for some years now. So it's not that the virus is new. It's just the technology that's being used, which is the mRNA. It is a new technology. However, they have had some other vaccines using that mRNA technology. The mRNA is the part of the genetic makeup of the virus, and when you take the vaccine, it kind of tells your body to, attack it whenever it sees this type of virus again. And so I think but we have to take into consideration that because we're in a pandemic, because the virus started in December of 2019, there was these cases of atypical pneumonia that were seen in Wuhan, China. And when they started seeing the atypical pneumonia, they recognized that it was not normal, so it subsequently spread from China to other parts of the world, and hence we're in a worldwide pandemic. And so in March, when the World Health Organization recognized this as a pandemic, then that's when they created Operation Warp Speed. So everybody got on board, all the scientists across the world, and they got together and they came together and they created these vaccines. And so that's how we were able to create the vaccine at a much faster pace than we typically do, because not only did they actually make it an enactment, but they also push money behind it. And when you have the money and the resources, typically, that helped to allow the vaccine to be produced much quicker.
Very good. Dr. Mitchell, you talking about people worldwide praying. We were praying and praying and seeking God and asking God for the vaccines. And the vaccines are actually here, and we are thankful to God. What kind of vaccines are now available?
Well, right now there's a vaccine by Pfizer and BioNTech. That vaccine, you get one dose, and then 21 days later you get a second dose. And there's also a vaccine by Moderna, the company called Moderna. And that vaccine, you take the first dose, and then 28 days later you take a second dose. And those are called the mRNA type of vaccine. And I've had both doses of the Moderna vaccine.
Well, praise God. I've had one dose, and I want everyone listening that no side effects, praise God. Just a little soreness in my arm the next day, and that was it, Dr. Mitchell. And I'm saying that because I'm hearing a lot about side effects. I'm hearing things like, if I take this vaccine, will I catch the vaccine? Speak to us about the hesitancy. Speak to us about the fears, and just look at it to the people and tell them, should we fear this? Should we not fear this? What should we do?
Well, I have to say that, I'm not a person's doctor, so if I'm not your doctor, I really can't tell you specifically because I don't know your medical history. But as far as side effects of the vaccine, typically we see the same type of side effects that you would see if you were to get the influenza vaccine. Might be fever, chills, body aches, headaches, a feeling of fatigue and malaise, weakness, loss of taste and smell. Of course, you're going to have muscle soreness, or typically you can have muscle soreness at the site of the injection as well.
I'm glad how you said that. You are not everybody's doctor. And so you can't say, yes, take it, no, take it, but you're giving us stats and information of what could happen. I'm personally not hearing from my friends that have taken it, my family members, about side effects. The only thing I'm hearing basically is maybe the little sore arm afterward.
Yeah, I've had several of my family members, myself and my husband, to take it, and some of them did have some body aches and small amount of chills, but they were still able to go to work. It didn't impact their day-to-day living, and so far, they haven't had any serious side effects. Now, there has been a couple of cases of, I know there was one physician in Florida actually, they passed away after getting the vaccine, He developed a form of thrombocytopenia, but obviously that's still under research to know was it actually linked to the actual vaccine itself. There were also some cases of Bell's palsy. A lot of people have been asking if I had Bell's palsy, should I take the vaccine? And we don't have any scientific evidence right now to tell them not to. We do know, however, if you are allergic to any of the ingredients in the vaccine, we don't recommend that you take it. However, there are some people who are highly allergic. We have been seeing some allergic reactions for people who are used to having a lot of allergies, maybe. So that's why you have to, check in with your specific provider to see should you take it or not. But in general, we are recommending that those who can should take the vaccine, unless they have another reason not to.
Great recommendation. Those that can, the recommendation is that with the advice of your doctor, you should take the vaccine. What are we hearing generally about people getting well and the vaccine working? Is the vaccine working positively?
Well, I think it's still kind of early to tell because I don't think it's been, enough time. We know that people develop immunity, I know maybe 50% after the first shot, and then maybe up to 95% with the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine after their second dose. So after your second dose, and after about another 2 weeks, you should be fully vaccinated. However, you can still get the coronavirus. So the vaccine is not going to keep you from actually getting the virus. But should you come into contact with the virus after you've received the vaccine, your symptoms will be much less. And it will be less likely to go to a severe case to where you have to be hospitalized or placed on a ventilator, which is, ultimately what we want to avoid, because we're still not sure what type of long-lasting effects people will have after having had the virus. Even if you didn't die from it and you survived having the coronavirus itself, we don't know exactly what your long-term effects will be. Some people would have it to affect their lungs. Of course, that's one of the main areas of the body, the pulmonary system, that it affects. Also the heart, some people may have some long-lasting complications with the heart from it. There may be some issues, with the kidneys and, other systemic manifestations. So unfortunately, it's still pretty early, to tell. But, both of the vaccines, I think at least, 40,000 people were tested in the different phases of the trials. And so, we're just basically making these, that's why the vaccines have emergency use authorization, because it is a little bit faster than we would normally use to roll out the vaccine. Start giving it to personnel. But I think with the number of people that have already received it, because the vaccines were developed, as early as March, they started the trials. So they was receiving, those who were in the actual vaccine trials, received it, months back. So, basically everything is still new. So we can only say so much about, what's going to have down the road, in all honesty.
Right.
But I think what people have to really take into consideration for themselves is, if you vaccinating yourself, you're not only doing it for yourself, but you're also doing it for your community. Because as we all get vaccinated, and hopefully, with herd immunity, we can subside the virus and maybe get back to, some sense of normalcy. And so that's the key is, not just thinking about yourself as an individual as much as thinking about, hey, you can do this to protect yourself, but your fellow man as well. Because, if you have a grandmother or a grandfather or, someone else who's ill in your family, you want to be able to protect yourself, but protect them as well.
Very good. I'm glad you brought in the community aspect, your fellow man aspect, because some people, when they are getting the vaccination, they're taking the mask off. They think, okay, everything is all right. So once we get the vaccine, should we take the mask off, or should we still wear masks, social distance, washing our hands? What do you tell us?
Yes, you continue to take all the necessary precautions to prevent yourself from getting the COVID vaccine as you did prior to getting the vaccine. So it does not preclude you from not having to wear your mask anymore and not having to wash your hands and not do, all of the social distancing practices. Because, you still can get the coronavirus vaccine. So you want to take all the necessary precautions to avoid it, even after getting the vaccine. Now we're saying, I think, a couple of things from the CDC came out, where now they're recommending that we double mask now. And also, if you take the vaccine, if you've gotten both doses and it's been at least 2 weeks, if you did come into contact with someone who had a known positive case, they say you don't have to quarantine. You should be protected. However, but you should take the necessary precautions though.
Very good. Double masking.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the newest recommendations?
Yeah, that was the newest recommendation from the CDC. They're recommending that you wear like a medical grade mask, and then you wear a cloth mask or something over it because, I think what's happening is a lot of people wearing their mask, but then they're not necessarily wearing it, maybe as properly as they should, and there may be some opening there, or they got it, below the nose and not covering the nose and the face. So, yeah, that's one of the newer recommendations from the CDC.
Our fellow man. We want you to think about your fellow man, your fellow sister, and we want to get this vaccination as you're led, and we want to get this COVID behind us. Dr. Mitchell, tell us again about the hesitancy again. You mentioned about the Tuskegee experience.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to African Americans with this many years ago? Can you speak to that? Because I've been hearing that. Well, Tuskegee experiment, and we were not told as a people. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, and I'm not the expert on it, Pastor, in all honesty, but I think the fact that people feel that, they were being given, drugs as a treatment for syphilis, and they weren't aware of what they were receiving. So they felt like they were being used as guinea pigs. And so that leads to lack of trust within the African American community, and as far as what the medical community is capable of maybe giving them. So they're like, well, I don't know what's in this shot you're giving me, And I think that, as well as, like I said, the time of the vaccine being created so quickly. But that's why we want to shed light on the fact that it's not that, I don't think it's as much as the vaccine was just created so quickly. You have to take into consideration how long we actually have been dealing with the coronavirus. So we've been working on a vaccine for it, not necessarily the COVID-19, of course, because that was a new, virus, just came out in 2019. But we've been working on the actual coronavirus vaccine for many years now. So that's why, it didn't take quite as long. And then with the new technology of the mRNA vaccine.
One of the things that I'm proud as an African American to see the many African American doctors in the medical field, both female and males. And that blesses me. That blesses us to know that we are on the front line, and we've been in the labs, and I think the Moderna virus.
Moderna vaccine?
Yeah, the vaccine, brother. Dr. Kizzy Corbett.
Yes, African American female. She was one of the lead, developers in developing the coronavirus vaccine, and she's African American. So. Yes.
Well, that's great. Now, I'll tell you what we would like to do, Dr. Mitchell. To those of our listeners, we want you to send in your questions. We have Dr. Tammy Mitchell with us, and we want your questions. Right now, you can send them in, and I have a few. Okay. Let me start off with one from New Covenant Faith, Dr. Mitchell. Okay. The question is, after taking the second dose, you should not have to quarantine.
Yeah, that's true. At least 2 weeks after taking the second dose, because you need to get the second dose and give your body an opportunity to develop an immunity against the virus. So, yeah, we say at least if it's been 2 weeks or more since the second dose, then you shouldn't have to quarantine.
Very good. The next question is from Linda Thomas. Her question is, when can the people with underlying conditions take their shot? At one time, Dr. Mitchell, we heard you had to be 70 years old before you can take it. Can clarify that for us?
Well, it's really based on, how the state and the local governments decide they're going to roll it out to different individuals, I was able to get it because I'm a healthcare professional. Of course, we were the first group of individuals to receive the vaccine. And then I think they were also giving it to those in the nursing homes and, some essential workers as well. And then last I heard it was those over 65. And so it's just based on how our community decides to roll it out into the community.
Okay, very good. This next question is from Linda Marchand. Linda asks, a friend of mine took the second dose yesterday and last night had chills and fever. Now they have a fever of about 100. When should I be concerned about the fever and what can I do to bring down the fever?
She can take, like I said again, I'm not her doctor, so typically we don't, give medical advice, but usually we recommend things like Tylenol can be taken for fever and chills, and usually we can do that every, 6 to 8 hours to help with any body aches and fever that's there. And my concern, a fever is typically 100.5 or greater. Probably would get more concerned if the fever was, over 101.5 and she had more ongoing symptoms or persistent symptoms. But it would be uncommon to have fever and chills, slight fever and chills, body aches, after the second dose. And most of the time with these vaccines, the second dose, you do tend to have more side effects than with the first dose. Very good.
This is more of a comment. This is from Phyllis Malvo. She says, I didn't have known side effects at all. I didn't even feel the needle going in my arm. Now, those that have not taken the vaccine, what about pain? When that needle goes in your arm, are you going to feel pain?
Yes, sir. It's kind of hard to get a needle stuck in your arm and you don't feel it, And that's great when people don't feel it. That's a good thing, but for the most part, you tend to feel it. For myself, the first shot, I felt very little pain in my arm. After my second shot, I definitely felt the next day that I had a shot. And I'm not sure if it was maybe the actual shot give runner technique, but yeah, you will feel, some pain in your arm this next day, usually after you get the shot, but it subsequently goes away.
Right, not severe pain.
No, it shouldn't be severe.
Okay, very good. This next question is from Floyd Mitchell. Floyd asks, can you still be a carrier of COVID after receiving the second dose?
After receiving the second dose, well, the thing would be is, like I said, you could still get the coronavirus even with receiving the vaccine. It's just that if you were to get it, it wouldn't be as severe of a case. So if you were to get coronavirus vaccine, yes, you would be a carrier. But it's not necessarily related to getting your second dose. So it would just be if you were to get the vaccine, then you would be a carrier.
Okay, very good. This next question is from beautiful name, Nira. And the question is, can pregnant women take the vaccine or is it not cleared yet? So
basically, this is from my understanding. I have, from ACOG guidelines and all the research that I have done, because I have a friend of mine whose wife is pregnant and he was very concerned about her taking the coronavirus vaccine. I did some research on it, and it is recommended that pregnant women take the vaccine. Now, there were not any known pregnant women that was in the trials. However, there was a couple of females or some females that became pregnant while in the trial phase. But as of right now, we are recommending that when you are pregnant, get the vaccine, because some women who have gotten COVID while they were pregnant, they had some more complications. So we think that the risk of the complications is, the benefit of getting the vaccine outweighs the risk of getting complications as a pregnant female from COVID.
I like that. The benefits outweigh the risk.
And that's what it all boils down to, because the question is, you have to think about, is it more beneficial to take the vaccine versus the actual risk of getting COVID?
I like that, Dr. Mitchell, because that's one of the things that takes away sometimes the fears
Yes.
in life, that the benefits of taking the vaccine is going to outweigh the negative. So the positive is going to outweigh the negative of not taking it.
Yeah, and I know, especially in our community, a lot of time when it comes to things such as taking medications, many people would like to try more natural, herbs and supplements. There's some, a lot of people want to know if things like zinc and vitamin C, echinacea, vitamin D supposed to, ward off the virus. We don't have any actual research that can substantiate it. However, whatever you can do to build up your immune system, hence eat healthy, try to eat a well-balanced diet and try to exercise, keep our weight down, and keep our immune systems as healthy as we can. I mean, all of those things would definitely be helpful. But, I can't say taking vitamin D will keep you necessarily from getting it, because I don't have the research to back that up.
We want these questions to keep rolling in. I have with me Dr. Tammy Mitchell, medical doctor here in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and we are so excited to have her. We are discussing COVID-19 vaccination in the African American community. You talked about, again, underlining health issues in the Black community. Can you again speak that to our people?
Yeah, we say that those things that put us at greater risk as far as comorbidity and mortality for getting the coronavirus are things such as high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, renal disease, heart disease, and those things that, seems to be unfortunately more prevalent in our community.
Dr. Mitchell, we have received some great information today. I tell you what, I think a lot of anxieties, stresses, fears have been alleviated. I really believe that. Even the Bible says we perish because of the lack of knowledge. And there's a lot of misinformation out there, distrust because of past experiences in the African American community. But I believe that anytime you can sit with your healthcare professional and get pertinent information, it's going to be a wonderful blessing. I want you to look again and just tell our listeners again 3 things. Number 1, give us the viruses, the vaccinations that are available.
Okay.
Those that are available, where can you get them? And what are the ages, if there is any ages at this time?
So the 2 that's most readily available here in the United States right now is the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine. Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, and Novavax, they're also coming out with vaccines. Novavax is actually supplying that vaccine in Africa, and AstraZeneca, I think, is going to be rolling out in Europe and UK. So I think the J&J vaccine is still, they're still waiting for emergency use authorization, to my knowledge and my understanding. But the 2 that's readily available here now is Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine. And it's most people are getting it either at their doctor's offices or either the pharmacies, the local pharmacies. Right now, I think the age is 65 and above, and I believe that all healthcare workers, should have gotten it by now if they wanted it. And I mean, they're just rolling it out as the community and the medical providers, deem, who's going to get it. So right now, I think it's 65 and above.
Okay, great. I have a comment here, Dr. Mitchell. This is from Janelle Guillory, and she says, on the news, they are saying a lot of people took the first dose, but they're not showing up for the second dose. What will happen if we take the first dose, but don't get the second dose?
Well, if you don't take your second dose, you just won't be fully immunized against the virus. You probably will have 50% of immunity. So, that would be helpful. But ideally, we would like to get the immune levels up to 95%, immunity up to 95% or better. And that's why we have to take that second dose, so that, gives your immune system, it kicks it into a higher gear, so that if you get exposed to the virus, you can, fight it off a lot better. So basically, the only thing that should probably happen to them is, they won't have as great of a response if they came into contact with the vaccine as someone who got 2 doses.
So would you recommend again taking that second dose?
Yes, I do recommend that they take the second dose.
Did y'all hear
To
that?
make sure that they're completely immunized against.
Take the second dose. Amen. Remember, the benefits outweigh the risk. Well, Dr. Tammy Mitchell, this has just been a wonderful experience. I'm so honored, proud to have you not only here today ministering to us, but all that you do. And thank you for all that you do in the field of the armed services. Before we sign off, tell us about the armed services and some of the things that you do.
Well, I'm a captain in the Navy. I've been in the Navy Reserves for 22 years now, and I'm still serving. And basically, I'm a doctor in the Navy as well. And that's it. That's all.
That's great. Doctor in the Navy as well. And you have that smile on your face. I know one reason you have a smile on your face. You're newly married, and congratulations.
Thank you.
The husband's in the studio with us right now. And my blessings upon you and Tom.
Okay.
With many, many years of happiness. All right, this has been Pastor Jimmy Stevens. Pastor Jimmy Stevens. Let's see if there's one more a question. I think that's it. Someone was chiming in on me. Well, one thing, Doctor, before we leave, I think this is very important. Sister Linda Marchand asked, one more time, could you please explain immunity?
Immunity?
Yes, could you explain what that is? Her immunity.
Herd immunity or
Yeah.
just immunity?
She says herd immunity. Again, as a medical person, you would understand, I think, what you're saying.
Yeah, so what herd immunity is saying that if you get the vaccine, and I get the vaccine, and you say we all get the vaccine that's in this room, so when the virus comes and we're exposed because we're vaccinated and we're immunized, we have a defense against it. It has no person to get into to keep the virus going. And so that's why if we can get 70 to 80% of the community vaccinated, then we can maybe, slow the virus way down to the point of maybe non-existence.
That's a great question. Again, it goes back to your brotherhood, sisterhood, your community being concerned. So more people in the community get vaccinated, we can...
Right, because the virus has to have a host to live inside in order for it to replicate and go from person to person. So if we're vaccinated and immunized against it, whenever it comes to us, it will be less likely for it to spread. So as more and more of us get vaccinated, then more and more of us will be immunized, and that will help to slow the virus, down.
That's great. my brothers and sisters, let us take the great information we got as a community, as a people. We can get COVID-19 behind us. It's going to take some time, but I really believe we can get COVID-19 behind us. You take this information, you share this information. You think very seriously if you have not made the decision about getting the vaccination to get the vaccination. Let me say again, I've had the great privilege of getting my first dose. I am excited about getting my second dose, and just as Dr. Mitchell said herself, she's got both of her doses. And so there are persons that are getting the vaccination, and you can be part of that. We can't tell you what to do. We're not telling you to take the vaccine. We're just giving you the information, and you make that decision. Again, this is Pastor Jimmy Stevens. I've had the great pleasure of being with Dr. Tammy Mitchell, MD, right here in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Also a medical doctor in the U.S. Navy, and she has just been a great, great blessing to us. Again, you share this information. You share this video. You share this Facebook. You post it. You share it with your friends, your neighbors, your family, and we thank God that He has given us now the vaccination. And I think about, when I think about the vaccination, I also think about the blood of Jesus Christ. And because of the blood of Jesus Christ, we have protection and we have defense. And I believe that with this vaccination, we have a great defense and a great protection. Well, God bless you. God keep you is our prayer.